Falcons Pulse, welcome back. NFL Week 4 review, and man, what a fun week we had. A lot of fun games to watch this weekend, along with some injuries that came up. So we're going to dive right into these games. And before we do that, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We got more content like this on the way. Let's get right into it. Thursday night football game, we had the Dallas Cowboys defeat the New York Giants in New Jersey. It's more like New Jersey Giants. But this game was no surprise to me with the results. Honestly, I didn't expect anything different. I honestly thought that the Cowboys would run up a few more points, but not this year, which is showing me that this is not the same Cowboys team from the last 2-3 years. So no surprises here other than they did stop the run on the Cowboys defense, but then they allowed Daniel Jones to throw the football around. So, I mean, he had 281 and it wasn't, impressive on his end ultimately with only 15 points on the board, but uh, nothing more he can really do there other than punch it in once you get into the red zone. I think the Giants, they got a lot to work on, a lot of things to look forward to, hopefully, in the coming years. But Cowboys, they're in a weird mix. I think they're a team that could easily go 8-9. Some regression just because there's so many flaws, and then with Micah going down, that's not helpful at all. Their D line's already thin now, so we'll see how the Cowboys play in the next couple weeks, especially with injuries. But no surprises from this one. On to Atlanta, where the Falcons defeat the Saints 26-24 in a major victory in a divisional game. As a Falcons fan, I'm stoked that we won the game. I don't think it should have been that close, especially with the mistakes the Saints made and tried to hand us the game, and we just settled for 3 points on a few offensive drives. We can't sputter out like that, but the Saints, they looked really good other than a couple plays that really killed them. That being the special teams muffed punt touchdown for the Falcons. Shaheed, you just got to clean that up there. And then Derek Carr, I mean, he throws a pick six really off of a batted ball. Great play by Judon. Nothing much Carr can do there. It was a setup screen. So, Atlanta, their offense can't rely on 14 points from their defense and special teams every game, so hard to say how this will build. Bijan didn't have a great game. He did have a touchdown called back off a Jake Matthews holding call that was very, very light. Even the commentators in the game said they've seen that numerous times not get called. Ticky-tack ball, but it ultimately cost the Falcons a touchdown. And then offensive play calling in moments is still weird, as last week, as we saw with the sideways handoff on a fourth down against the Chiefs, and that failed. Instead, we tried a screen on third down in the red zone and still didn't work. I don't know why we keep doing plays like that. We need to work on our red zone play calling. Other than Tyler Algier looked great. He had a great drive. Some big catches in there for some of the Falcons. Kirk Cousins still not looking 100%. So hopefully with a little bit of momentum from wins, they can start building. They got through the heart of their season, really, because now it's going to be a little bit easier for them going forward. So we'll see how both these teams play. They'll match up again, so it's not all said and done just yet, but great start for Atlanta. I'm stoked. A win is a win. Wasn't pretty, but we'll take it. On to New Jersey, where the Jets lose to the Denver Broncos 10-9 in a weird game. I mean, that game was boring. That game had nothing, no thrills. I mean, it ended off of 2 missed 50-plus yard kicks by both kickers. The Broncos could have been up 4, miss. Jets could win the game, miss. It just shows you how the weather was impacting that game heavily. So, and the Broncos without Alex Singleton, I didn't expect them to really put up a fight. I thought that the Jets would do a little bit more. Obviously, I took them in my predictions, and here we are now. So Aaron Rodgers, he said that after the game his legs were bothering him, so hopefully he's okay. He came up gimpy a few drives before the game was over. Uh, let's make sure he's healthy. But first off, it's a rain game, 42 attempts passing. What are we doing? I mean, we have Brees Hall only getting 10 carries. That's he only had 4 yards. It is the discussion to be made. Braylon Allen had 8 carries for 34 yards. Do we need to get both of them more in the offense? I mean, Nathaniel Hackett, what was the game plan? It's a rain game. You're not going to go out there and throw 42 times and expect to win. And that's what they lost. I mean, they lost the game. The Broncos, they weren't any better. Bo Nix didn't impress anybody. 25 attempts. Okay, that's not too bad. They had a little bit better game plan, though. They gave the ball off 25 times here to their backs. Javonte Williams had 16 carries for 77 yards, while Jaleel McLaughlin, 9 carries for 46 yards. Why didn't the Jets do that? I don't understand. But the big thing from this as well was Bo Nix. At halftime, he had -7 yards. -7. 7 completions and -7 yards. How do you even come up with that? You're better dirting the ball every time. It's crazy. And then he goes on to put 60 yards, and he got his first passing touchdown. I'll give it to him. Cortland Sutton, he carried the receiving load, not that there was much out there. But I'll give it to Denver. A win's a win. And this is one that I did not see coming. So for them to get their second win, hey, who knows? They might surprise some teams, and especially if you have games like this, it's up in the air. But New York, Hackett needs to not lean so much into Rodgers so much on games like this. 42 attempts passing is not winning football. So hopefully Rodgers is okay. Weird one. I don't even know how to predict both these teams in the coming weeks. On to San Francisco, where the 49ers defeat the Patriots 30-13. And this is a surprise to absolutely no one. Not even Pats fans are surprised. Because they're still trotting out Jacoby Brissett. I'd like to call him Brissett, but right now he's not the guy. And I don't understand Gerard Mayo not putting Drake May in there. Maybe it's because of the offensive line, because Nick Bosa, every time the ball got snapped, he almost came off the edge every play. So he looked unstoppable. I'm not sure where the Pats go on offense. They're just not doing anything. They actually had an opportunity to come back in this one. So I think there's potential with May in there that they can do a lot more, because the problem with the Patriots, and I could highlight the 49ers more, but it's more of the Patriots problem than it is a 49ers win, because we all know what the Niners are going to do. The Patriots, though, their defense can hold, but when their offense 3 and outs every drive, I mean, their defense is they're not gonna be healthy. First off, they're coming out there depleted after a while, because they know what they're gonna have to do in a few plays after ending a drive. So Drake May, I'm on board with getting him in there. Hopefully, pass protection isn't the main reason why he's on the bench, because the experience he gains this year will help them tremendously over the next few years, because I think Drake May has a lot of talent. So this one, not much more to talk about other than San Fran expected the win, got the win. On to the next one. The Chicago Bears defeat the Rams 24-18, and man, I don't know how to feel. The Rams, they're banged up, and you could just tell it's going to affect them. I knew the last week against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers, Sean McVay loves to come out with a great game plan against them. But against a team like the Bears, it's up and down, and this is one of their ups. I mean, Caleb Williams threw the ball 23 times and completed 17, so not the worst. Got sacked 3 times. He didn't throw any interceptions, so turnovers limited, which is huge. DeAndre Swift came to life, finally. 16 carries, 93 yards with a 5.8 average, so that's awesome for them. And if that offense can make their mind up on what they're going to do, because Swift has been not seen until this week. And Caleb Williams, he still needs more time. And I think with more flashes, we'll see him get better. This offense can be really, really good, but they need to put it together. So we'll see what they do in the coming weeks. Caleb Williams did have a fumble. Other than that, I mean, not a terrible game from the Bears. Getting 24 points up on the board, you can't even be mad with that. The defense held the Rams to 18, so they did their job. We'll see what they have going forward. Rams, not a lot to say until they get healthy. It just sucks that they're so injured. So Chicago, big win. The Minnesota Vikings defeat the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. Wow. Riding with the purple wave right now. I mean, the Vikings, they put on a show. Now, they did almost choke it in the second half, so let's not become the Ravens. But they held through it, and 31-29 over the Packers. Jordan Love's comeback game. And why do you walk in with a Favre jersey? You put up a Favre performance. That probably stings a little bit. He threw 3 interceptions, but once the game went along, he looked a lot better, and which is to be expected. He threw the ball 54 times. When you're down early so big, I'm not surprised he threw that much. Josh Jacobs, though, on 9 carries had 51 yards, so that's pretty positive for them. And defensively, they looked better in the second half, so I'll give it to them there, but obviously a loss, a lot to work on. Now on the other side, the Vikings, Sam Darnold is shocking the world right now. 20 of 28 passing, 275, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception, and he was sacked twice, but ultimately, I mean, that's a great performance from Sam Darnold. And Aaron Jones, he did really well, 22 carries, 93 yards, so did his business there against his former team. And Justin Jefferson, man, I mean, the touchdown that he had on where the defenders draped all over him, he just one-hands it on his chest. I mean, what do you do? He's just unstoppable. Jordan Addison looked good in his game back as well. So Hawkinson in this offense might just make this one of the most explosive in the league. We'll see how it keeps up, if Darnold can keep going, because we had Dobbs last year. But I'm sticking with the purple wave. And Skull. The Indianapolis Colts defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And wow, the Colts without Anthony Richardson and bring in Joe Flacco, and they still get the job done. So I will say I'm pretty surprised. Before that, Richardson looked really good in this game. Not a lot to say past that since he didn't complete the game. But Joe Flacco came in, did the work he's supposed to, and he looked pretty good. Pittsburgh, missing Alex Highsmith is a key component there, and I think it showed today. Justin Fields, he did a good job. 34 passing attempts, 22 completions on 312 yards, 1 touchdown. He got sacked 4 times. He usually runs into those most of the time. So he's improving, and I think that we're going to just continue to see Fields trotted out there. Cordell Patterson, he had a couple carries where it was pretty good. But other than that, Najee was quiet. Pickens had a really good game. They almost came back in that one, just not enough time. And I guess it shows that the Steelers defense, they're not unstoppable. They're not going to win their offense every game. So their offense needs to show more. I know the stat lines look good for Justin Fields, but when you watch the game, it's a whole different thing. So they looked good towards the end of the game. Most of the game, their offense was pretty quiet. I hope that they can keep it rolling from what they did at the end of the game, and then that Pittsburgh team can be dangerous in that AFC North, especially with the Bengals at 1-3. But hopefully this isn't the start of a slide for them. Colts, let's get Anthony Richardson healthy, and let's see if we can keep this rolling. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have the Philadelphia Eagles number. Or can you say that they sure got the big win 33-16, but the Eagles with a depleted offense, no Lane Johnson, no AJ Brown, and no Devonta Smith, three key components there, all down. They still put up 14 points on offense. Well, I think a lot of people were kind of shocked by the Eagles, but and they're gonna start saying that Hurts needs to fix some things. He does. There was a moment in the game where the Eagles were only down 30-16, and they were driving. It almost looked like the game was gonna change, and then a fumble. So game-changing things like that, the fact that they were competing without those players is a good sign. I think the Eagles, once they get healthy, they will definitely be able to do a little bit more. Along with that, the Buccaneers, they have their own injuries. So they come in here, it's not offensively, it's defensively that they've had them. I didn't think that their defense would hold up as good, and they did. So that's good news for them, especially going into Thursday against a shoddy offense like Atlanta's. I hate to say that. I wish Kirk would play better, but if the Bucs defense gets healthy with their best players and they can do what they did against the Eagles this weekend, I think the Buccaneers have a good shot of taking the South, and that hurts. That really does hurt. But Baker looks good. He had one bad game the week before. He got Evans involved, which is massive. Mike Evans needs to be part of that offense. Don't know how they went 2 weeks without him. And, putting in Godwin, Bucky Irving looks like he's going to be RB1 here soon. Glad I picked him up in fantasy. I am not a believer in Rachaad White. So it'll be interesting for both these teams going forward, but big win for the Buccaneers, and the South might be theirs. The Cincinnati Bengals have a win, and the Carolina Panthers lose at home. And in a 34-24 victory for the Bengals, they looked pretty good. I think the defense still needs work. No different story there. Andy Dalton couldn't get his big heroic win against his former team. He threw it 40 times, completed it 25 times, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It's okay. Chuba Hubbard, he had 18 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. That's pretty big. I'm surprised the Panthers didn't put up more points, but turnovers can be a factor there. The Bengals offense looks better. The defense is still my worry and why I just am not high on the Bengals even making the playoffs. They could get 8 wins, 8, 9 wins, but in the AFC and especially the North, that might not get you in. And more than likely, I just don't see it. So Burrow, he's going to get better as the year goes. Higgins got involved. Jamar Chase was involved. He had a pretty big play in there. And I think ultimately that the Bengals, they need to keep getting this rolling. Maybe they'll change on defense, but the Panthers are the Panthers. I don't expect too much more, but they can surprise in some games. So good win for Bengals. 1 win on the board. Let's celebrate that one. The Houston Texans pick up a big win against the now 0-4 Jacksonville Jaguars. In a game where Houston was missing Joe Mixon. I really think with Mixon in that offense, it makes them more explosive. Without him, it does take them down a level. So ultimately, it's a divisional game, so I'm not surprised that it was close. Most of the time that's how it goes. Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, I've already done a video on him. Probably having one of the worst contracts in the league. This hasn't proved it. He's not winning games this one is possible for them to win, and they just didn't. So Tanks Bigsby and ETN, they're splitting carries for the most part. Bigsby looks like he might be even better than ETN. So that's something to take away. Brian Thomas Jr., he's not a bust. Good news for Jacksonville, but there's a lot of other problems there. So their defense needs some work. They're out Foyce Alunakun for a bit, and I'm not sure that Jacksonville will keep it rolling by any means. There's nothing to start right now. They just got injuries piled up, and Trevor Lawrence isn't that guy. So, and I'm gonna stand by that for a little bit. CJ Stroud, Texans, they'll look better. I'm surprised they didn't do a little bit more, but mix in the key components. So Going forward, Houston needs to perform better against teams like the Jaguars. Jaden Daniels has arrived, and man, oh man, did he just take out the Arizona Cardinals. The Washington Commanders, I think, have their franchise quarterback, and that is so weird to say. I don't think I've said that since RG3 before he got injured. And let's hope that doesn't happen to Daniels. Never want that to anybody. Now, Arizona, I was surprised they didn't put up more points. The Commanders' defense has been shoddy on their safeties, DBs. I mean, it's just been rough for them. Their D-line, I'm not worried about. It's just that most of the time, I expect high points from the team playing against them. So for the Commanders, the Cardinals offense, the 14 points is huge because that offense can be pretty explosive. But Jaden Daniels, he is here and he is gunning for the NFC East. The Eagles, the Cowboys, they're in the same boat right now. Got some injuries, not looking very cleaned up. While the Commanders, with Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels, look revamped. So we'll see how this keeps going. I'm going to root for Jaden Daniels. I'm stoked to see it. So we'll see what goes on, but I'm hoping that they can keep it going. And 3-1, number one in the NFC East, your Washington Commanders. The Battle of IR results in the Las Vegas Raiders defeating the Cleveland Browns 20-16. And not a lot to say about this game. Minshew looked okay. He looked like Minshew. Watson, he had good looks, though. He had a lot of drops from his receivers. He had a couple holdings that prevented some great passes from him. Whatever is going on off the field, I'm going to leave out of this. When it comes to him on the field, he needs a healthy offensive line to really show that he can play. And I think that he has that upside. We'll see if it comes, but losing in this one's tough because Amari Cooper did have a touchdown that gave the Browns the lead, called back on a holding, so that was hard to see. But we'll see what the Raiders do. I'm not sure that Adams is truly injured or if it's setting up a possible trade to, I would guess, the New Jersey Jets, which would be explosive for them, but I know he's not happy there. It's just, you can see it on his face. And the Raiders, they need Max Crosby to be a little bit more dominant on defense, but a lot of questions going ahead for them. While the Browns, they need to heal up. So good win for the Raiders, at least at 2-2. Browns 1-3 in a tough division. Not looking so hot for them right now. The Kansas City Chiefs go to Los Angeles and defeat the Chargers 17-10. But what did it cost ultimately? The Chargers, they didn't have Joey Bosa. They didn't have Derwin James on a questionable suspension, especially when he always has really big moments against Kelsey. Just seems to go that way. Chiefs had another holding call kind of go their way towards the end of the game there. Not sure what to say. I didn't expect them to lose this game, but it ultimately did lose. Rashee Rice looks like he may have a torn ACL. And with that, that's going to change a lot of things on that offense. They're going to have to lean into their rookie Worthy, maybe give Juju more looks. I'm not sure where you take it. It's hard to say. Kelsey, he did have his 7 receptions for 89 yards. I'm not shocked. I did think that this was set up for a Kelsey game for him to look like his old self. He still looks like a new Kelsey. It looks like old Kelsey, as we all know, is gone, and he's finally at the point where he might have a game or two where he gets a few catches, but it's not going to be consistent like it was, and he's not the same threat. The Chargers, they got closed up towards the second half and onwards. They had a 10-0 lead, and then they just didn't do anything. The Chiefs in the first half didn't look good, and they gave them a lot of opportunities. Chargers, they just didn't take them. So Chiefs 4-0. they're like a couple points away from being 0-4 on the season. But hey, a win's a win, and that's how you win championships, is skating away no matter what happens. So what did it cost Kansas City? Guess we'll find out in the coming weeks. The Buffalo Bills get absolutely dominated on Sunday Night Football, 35-10 by the Baltimore Ravens, or should I say Derrick Henry. Give the king his crown. He has arrived in Baltimore, and what a game. He looked dominant throughout the whole game. 24 carries, 199 yards, and a touchdown, with the longest at 87 yards to start off the game. Lamar Jackson looked all right. They leaned into the run like crazy. The Bills defense, I think, just got exposed a bit. I mean, especially because they have players on IR, and I was surprised that they started off 3-0. Now they've played an actual competitive team, and their holes are showing. Ultimately, that can get better once players come off IR. Josh Allen looked okay, didn't look dominant. James Cook looked okay. Shakir, he got banged up a little bit, but he looked good. Coleman got 3 targets, 51 yards. That's always great to see him start getting looks. Josh Allen did have a fumble lost. Don't want to see that, but ultimately they got it back when Lamar lost a football as well. Ultimately, the Ravens, they're finally leaning into the Lamar Jackson running with Derrick Henry. And the moment they start doing that, defenses are going to have problems. Now, the Lamar Jackson running back agenda is going to come back out, and they're going to call him a running back again. That's because they're going to lean a lot more into it. This is the first time they've really had that dominant running back to go with him. So I think the players in receiving, likely Andrews, he's more of a blocker now. You still have Zay Flowers. He has a few games where he can go off, but just don't expect it from this team unless they're playing the number 1 run defense. Even then, this team's going to look really good, and their schedule going forward looks favorable for them. So I think Baltimore has a clear path to winning the AFC North. I don't think the Steelers are going to continue to do what they have done. They're going to start to slide, I believe. And the Bengals, they're already down. The Browns are already down. So the Baltimore Ravens are primed to start their roll. So I had them winning the AFC North at the start of the year. They finally have got the gears going, and they showed it on Sunday Night Football. So King Henry dominates, while Josh Allen and the Bills have a lot to go back and look at. On to Monday night. Monday Night Football just got completed, and I'll tell you, man, one was a disaster while the other was a wonderful game to watch. And we're going to start with the disaster here. The Tennessee Titans and the Miami Dolphins. Oh man, 31-12, and Tennessee wins. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't fun to watch, but they got the job done, and that's what truly matters. Will Levis, he didn't play for Tennessee completely. His first drive, he entertained us with a pick to Emmanuel Ogbah. How do you do that? He said he couldn't see him. And then the next drive, he got injured with a shoulder injury. They ultimately did not bring him back. Not sure if that's because he, truly was questionable to come back, or if it was a coach's decision to see what Mason Rudolph was going to do, which he just didn't turn the ball over. He was a good game manager against a Miami team that can't get the ball moving on offense without Tua Tagovailoa. And Miami, wow, it's just hard to watch. A lot to work on. You would hope that you would see a little bit more, really out of both sides. This one was just a hard watch. So nothing really more to go over. Both of these teams right now, they're just in the bottom tiers. Miami mainly because of Tua. Tennessee, they just have a lot of question marks right now. So Tennessee, congratulations on a win. First one of the season. Something to celebrate. On to the better half of the Monday Night Football games. We had the Seattle Seahawks at the Lions, where the Lions won 42-29. And Man, was that a fun one to watch. For the most part, the Lions did have control pretty early in the game after DK fumbled. I'm pretty sure his knee was close to being down, just no cigar, and it changed it for them as their defense allowed 42 points. And once you're down, you got to throw the football, and that's what Geno Smith did. He went 38 of 56 with 395 passing yards, one touchdown, and one interception that was really late on the final drive. So I don't really count that too much on him. He played tremendous. He put his team in a winning, in a spot to win, to be in the game. I enjoyed watching that. For the most part, Seattle couldn't run the football all night, and I don't think that was their game plan. But from what the stats show, it makes it look like it was easier. Kenneth Walker broke off 2 runs. Other than that, they were pretty stuffed. Charbonnet had 2 carries for 15 yards, and Kenneth Walker had 12 carries for 80 yards. Overall, I think Seattle, you got a lot to look forward to. Just got to clean up the early turnover, and you got to get healthy on defense, of course, but there's still a lot of work there, even with the healthy defense. For Detroit, they look like one of the best teams in the league. No surprise there. Everyone had them. And this team's just going to get better as we go, and we just saw them with beautiful, beautiful blue helmet with the black jersey. It's just beautiful uniforms. So what a debut for those to come out, put 42 at home and get a big win. I guess Jared Goff can catch touchdowns too, so that was unexpected. Amon-Ra put it right on the dot too, so I'll give it to him. But they have a lot to look forward to, and a big Lions win, a lot of positives for Seattle too, but we'll see what both of these teams keep rolling. I think they're both going to be competitive in the NFC this year. And that wraps up the NFL Week 4, and man, what a week. A lot of entertaining games. Some games were flops. We'll get those, but let me know your thoughts. If I missed anything, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like. We got more content like this on the way, and oh boy, week 5. Oh man, what surprises do we have next? I can't even imagine. On to the next one.